Hi, Yalda. Yeah, welcome to Nottingham Trent University, where Rishi Sunak and Sir Keir Starmer have just finished the final televised debate of this general election. I say just finished, you can probably just about hear Keir Starmer with his closing statement there. This feels like a huge moment because it is the last big debate of this last debate altogether of this election campaign. Rishi Sunak needed a big moment. Did he get it? He was certainly on the attack. Sam Coates was watching with me. What did you think? I mean, it felt like a sense of urgency about Rishi Sunak. Did you think that's fair?
I think that's right, Ali. Look, I think tonight was a debate that Rishi Sunak would have wanted to have at the start of this campaign. It was a debate that undoubtedly sharpened the choice at this election. An election, of course, which is just in 8 days' time. And at this last minute of the election campaign, and we're 5 weeks into it, I thought that we had Rishi Sunak deliberately putting Keir Starmer on the spot on a whole range of subjects, whether it was tax, Rishi Sunak saying tax would go up, welfare, questions about how Keir Starmer would bring people off welfare and get them into work, people smuggling, women's protections, whether or not changing the trade deal would mean some kind of concession to free movement of people with the EU. Time and again, what we saw was Rishi Sunak wanting to ask about Keir Starmer's plans. And I have to be candid with you, Ali, sometimes there was more detail, sometimes there was less detail in his answers, while Keir Starmer, his tactic was to attack the Conservative record, talk about his backstory, what he's done in the past. But Rishi Sunak kept hammering home, what is your plan? And then, when he didn't get an answer, kept repeating the line, don't surrender to Keir Starmer, over and again. I could see a Tory spin doctor actually punch the air as he walked in the room. I wonder whether the public verdict will be quite that favourable when it comes to this debate. But Rishi Sunak working very hard, punchy, on the front foot for quite a lot of it. None of the sort of slightly defeated, slightly self-indulgent Rishi Sunak that we have seen in some of these debates. Instead, he wanted to try and force, using the audience, using the presenter, to try and force Keir Starmer to be clear. Let's take a couple of examples that were key. He said, how are you going to stand up and protect women? He made clear that there was a key dividing line between them. Rishi Sunak says in order to protect women's spaces, you need to change the Equality Act. Keir Starmer, he drew out from Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer believes that no change is necessary. When it comes to welfare, Rishi Sunak is putting forward a plan to deny people welfare if they turn down jobs repeatedly. Keir Starmer not endorsing that plan, even though he wants to get people off welfare. It's that kind of detail. Rishi Sunak had a clear strategy to try and show people where he, the Conservative Prime Minister, felt his Labour opponent hadn't been clear enough. And in doing so, some answers were there, some answers were a little bit less clear. I thought that Rishi Sunak was at his most effective where he was challenging Keir Starmer why there wasn't a comprehensive plan on something like tackling the gangs. That was his allegation. But there were one-liners from Rishi Sunak in that I don't think we'd heard before. He said that you would, in the end, the gangs would need a bigger boat because they're queuing up waiting for a Labour government. And Rishi Sunak said that if a Keir Starmer premiership wanted to return people, Keir Starmer said returns are the answer. If he wanted to return people to their country of origin, what was he going to do about people who came from Syria, people who came from Iran? Would he really sit down and negotiate with the Ayatollahs and the strongmen of that region? It was a tactic based on ridicule at points, but quite a sharper way of going into this debate than we have heard from Rishi Sunak up until this point. It's fascinating, Ali, because these are the debates that the Conservative headquarters, the campaign chiefs, wanted far more of. And in the end, in this campaign, they only got 2 of them. Everything else, interviews, audience questions. But there was clearly a nervousness on the Labour side as to why, about putting Keir Starmer up, allowing Rishi Sunak to go at him. And I think tonight you saw a bit of the reasoning behind that, because that Tiggerish and at times quite aggressive Rishi Sunak, which at the start of the debate, I have to be honest, I thought might end up in Rishi Sunak almost overreaching, talking over both his opponent Keir Starmer and Michelle Hussein, the presenter. But as he got into his stride, he did look like he was kind of funneling his opponent into trying to give answers, or as I suspect Rishi Sunak really wanted, not give the answers that you wanted. Take welfare. Rishi Sunak taking the question and showing the dividing line in this election when Keir Starmer didn't want to acknowledge it. The dividing line between the Conservatives and Labour Party is that the Conservatives would more happily,
A piece of paper's just been passed to you, Sam, and I think
okay.
this is a first pulse.
Okay.
It's a very exciting moment. Tell us.
So we've done the analysis. This is a big moment. There is a decisive decision by people taking part in this poll. We have Rishi Sunak, 50% think he's the winner. Keir Starmer, 50% think he's the winner. So it's absolutely evenly split. You can see there on the screens the number, absolutely evenly split. Now, we've got Patrick English from YouGov.
Yes, Patrick English from YouGov. It's neck and neck. Tell us a bit about this poll.
So what we've done is we've polled 1,700 debate watchers, and they've told us tonight, as Sam has said, that they think that the two men were completely even, 50% for Rishi Sunak, 50% for Keir Starmer. And the really interesting thing here is that, of course, that is a revert to type, really, from the first debate, where we saw, again, a very split decision among the debate-watching public. Keir Starmer won the second debate, but now we've gone back to that head-to-head format, and we can see that the two men are neck and neck again. But underlying this number is a very interesting crossbreak. Among Conservative 2019 voters who watched this debate, 18% said that Keir Starmer won.
18%. Okay, that's an interesting topic. Also, is this, given that most people, according to the polls, are going to vote, many more people are going to vote Labour than Conservative, is it a win for Rishi Sunak that it's 50%?
I think certainly he will be pleased with that, yes. And certainly looking at the last debate where Keir Starmer won that quite handsomely, this is an improvement. And Rishi Sunak will be quite pleased with this result. He came out fighting. He came out with a lot of attack lines, with some very clear messages. And it seems that has improved his position, at least from the last debate. But again, we're looking here at a party that is behind in the polls. MRP polling suggesting they could be reduced anything to around 100 seats. Was this a knockout blow to turn that around? I'm not sure, but of course we'll have to wait and see with the polls later.
Sam, was this a knockout blow?
Well, that's the point, isn't it? Given the state of this race, given the Labour Party at 20 points ahead in almost every poll, including all the ones that Patrick has done for Sky News, really the public needed to overwhelmingly endorse Rishi Sunak as the victor in this debate to have any chance at all of changing the state of this race. So I think from the highs and the fist pump of the Tory spin doctor, clearly pleased with what Rishi Sunak did in today's debate, I think there will be disappointment in the Tory ranks that they didn't even nudge a win in the polling, and it's neck and neck. And neck and neck polling, I have to say, Ali, doesn't feel to me that it's going to change the race. Patrick, do you think 50-50 is going to change anything in the headline figures?
I wouldn't say so, no, I don't think so. It's not a number which screams a big victory for Sunak, as you said, and he needed to score one tonight. He needs a campaign-changing moment. I don't think that this was it, and again, I'd say still that significant number of those who voted Conservative in 2019 say that Starmer won.
Okay. I think there's a really interesting question about Rishi Sunak's tactics. In my view, watching that, he was effective. He was effective in highlighting the choice, the policy difference between the two men. I do wonder, looking at that poll, whether that's actually what the public are really looking for. Is the dynamic people wanted to know what they're choosing between? Or is the dynamic with the Labour Party 20 points ahead in the poll actually that the public are just done with the Tories, in which case they're not listening to the difference, they just want a change.
Very similar polling to last time, really, and I guess a lot has happened since then, so perhaps that will be seen as a small victory, but as you say, he felt like he needed something big to shift the dial right. I'm sure we will be going back to you both very soon. Well, both Rishi Sunak and Sir Keir Starmer defended themselves over the handling of betting accusations against members of both parties.
acted now on those to withdraw support from those two Conservative candidates. What did you find in that investigation?
Well, Michelle, you know there's an independent investigation which is ongoing, which is why I can't say anything further about that.
Do you know that none of your other candidates have placed similar bets?
Well, I've made clear to my candidates what the standards are, and they've seen by my actions what the consequences are if they fall short of those standards.
How many hundreds is it?
Is it 200? I'm going to turn to the next question now.
Is it 400?
I think the Prime Minister must have put a bet on how many times he's going to interrupt me.
And the pair both took the opportunity to criticise one another on immigration, a key issue in this year's election. Let's have a listen to that.
If Labour win, the people smugglers are going to need a bigger boat. Don't surrender our borders to the Labour Party.
But how would you are seeking power, what would you get those numbers down to through the approach you're talking about?
We want to get the numbers right down. We want to, with a plan to get people back into work. It's not just a border security issue, it's actually a national security issue, because the government's lost control of who's coming and what their background is.
Are you going to sit down with the Iranian ayatollahs? Are you going to try and do a deal with the Taliban? It's completely nonsensical what you are saying, right? You are taking people for fools.
Hello. Well, joining me now with the first post-match spin is David Davis. I think a Conservative veteran. Can I call you that?
Yeah, that's probably the polite form, yeah.
Former Brexit Secretary. I mean, he was clearly on the attack, but he needed more than that to really shift the dial, didn't he?
No, I don't agree. I mean, look, all these polls you hear so much about, and which in every election I've fought, 10 of them, they've always been wrong, by between 6 and 20%.
As wrong as this?
Well, we don't know. I mean, that's the point. Between 6 and 20%. Now, but today, what we do know is about half the public haven't yet decided. So today was very important. This debate was very important. The last debate before the weekend in which people make up their minds. And, you know, the Prime Minister made an incredibly important... I mean, his attack line, do not surrender your taxes, do not surrender your borders to this man because he won't tell you the truth. You're going to be seeing Darren Jones in a second. Darren Jones there's a recording of him on the Telegraph website today actually saying we're going to spend hundreds of billions.
We'll put that to Darren Jones.
Well, please do.
The IFS is saying neither of you are being...
No, let me say this. That hundreds of billions, what does that mean? That means £10,000 a family. So he's got a lot of explaining to do.
It's interesting that you seem to think that you can still win this election. Speaking to a lot of your colleagues, they seem to have lost hope.
Well, I've fought more than most of them, of course.
So
in 1992, we all thought we'd lost.
Where does this rank in terms of the election campaigns that you've seen?
It's very hard to say. I mean, they're all different.
It's not the top, is it?
What I'm not seeing on the doorstep is what you're seeing in the polls. Now, I think it's going to be a patchwork election around the country. It's going to be different. But what I'm seeing is a lot of people worried about taxes, worried about pensions. Those issues are becoming bigger and bigger as we get close to the election. And that's why I think tonight was important.
You wanted Penny Mordaunt to be the leader of the Conservative Party over Rishi Sunak. In fact, you said that he made the economy worse, he had no strategy. And now you're here defending it. Something's changed, hasn't it?
Forgive me, I'm not refighting leadership contests.
But this is someone that wants to say he has a plan, and you said he had no strategy.
Otherwise, you're going to be taken back to my debates on this matter. No, look, he's done a very good job. I mean, look, he's faced a once in a generation issue in terms of war in Europe. He's faced a once in a century issue in terms of pandemic. He did it with an economy which we'd inherited massive debts in the past, and he managed to get inflation down from 11% to 2% in 6 months. Margaret Thatcher would have given her eye teeth to do that.
All of this is the economy on a spreadsheet, but people aren't actually feeling it. Do you think he called the election at the right moment?
Well, with respect, this week, I think 5 banks and building societies are now reducing their interest rates, even before the Bank of England is. So that's the way it's going. His policy is working. It was tough, of course it's tough. But because, there is no non-tough policy to deal with Ukraine, to deal with the massive increase in the price of oil. The policy is actually delivering. And so I think the public will look at this and say, we've got a difficult world, all sorts of disruptions at home and abroad. Who will deal with it best? of these two, the man who's already done a great job so far on that, or Mr. Starmer, who can't even tell the truth about his tax.
It's interesting that some of Labour's attacks on that very thing were really quite personal. They said that he said that Rishi Sunak's out of touch, that he lives his world is a million miles away.
This from the man who
Do you think those criticisms
this
are
from the man who keeps telling us his dad was a toolmaker. In my day, a toolmaker was a very well-paid job. Look, I'm a council house boy. You know, I come from I'm a single mum. Right? I think Sunak's the best we've got for this job in the country.
The best of a bad bunch?
No, the best we've got for this job in this country. And he's the one who I'm certainly going to be voting for, and I'm talking to everybody else to vote for, because he gives the best future.
Hello.
Hi, how you doing?
Over to you. Your problem, I'm afraid.
Welcome, Dan.
You've been referring to me. I
Hundreds of billions.
From the private sector. I
Just to keep the public
you're going to do
up to date
PFI,
on what's
are you?
happening.
You're going to do PFI? Do ask him about PFI.
I'm very happy to answer any of these questions.
Because Gordon Brown cost us £5 for every pound
you should have a panel with both of us on. I think we would have a good fun.
We'd have great
You've
fun.
caused your party some problems today. David Davis, actually. No, you're staying here. We're having both of you.
Am I or not? I'm staying. Okay.
Oh,
Fine. Good. Right. Okay.
You said, you were caught saying that decarbonisation plans would cost hundreds of billions. You've downgraded your £28 billion plan. So are you being straight about the public finances?
So just to be clear what this
Yes.
is. This was a coffee morning in my constituency. I think you may have sent someone to spy on me.
Yeah.
In future, you're very welcome.
All of them.
You can sign up for a ticket on my website.
All my spies.
You're very welcome.
All my
CCHQ,
spies. But the
welcome
important thing was there was a recording.
Yeah, but
saying
I can say it now because it will cost hundreds of billions of pounds to hit net zero by 2050.
So how are you going to pay for it?
But most of that money will come from the private
in which
sector.
case, why did you downgrade your thing from 28?
Well, because you guys crashed the economy and set debt spiralling.
No, this is all.
Are you denying that? Are you denying?
Yes, this is all in the last couple of weeks.
Have you forgotten who Liz Truss is?
This is all.
What happened when Liz Truss crashed the economy?
This is all in the last few weeks. What changed since March?
What changed?
You really got to look down. You've got to learn to tell the public.
So do you saying Liz Truss had no impact on the economy?
I mean, he seems to have forgotten who this woman is.
What I'm saying is you've got an economy where we've got inflation down from 11% to 2%.
Why did it go up so much?
In 6 months. Ukraine.
Oh, really?
Why think the oil price?
Why was UK inflation?
You're going to work in a treasury. You don't think the oil price had an impact?
You've got questions to answer.
You don't think the oil price had an impact?
I think you should apologise.
You don't think the cost?
Do you really think? Do you really think people at home are buying your arguments?
Do you think furlough is a good idea?
Do you think they're buying your arguments?
Do you think furlough is a good idea?
Look, we can ask people different questions.
No, I'm asking you.
Great. This is great TV.
Do you think furlough is a good idea?
I supported furlough.
There. All right.
No, but why?
You wanted
Okay,
more.
Darren, I need to ask you some questions because we actually haven't spoken to you
behave.
as much as we are enjoying
In
this.
that case, I'll leave you to it. Nice to talk. We'll do the
I think we
panel.
get a show.
We'll do the panel.
We could get a show together.
I tell you what,
We
you could
are
hire
live on TV,
You could hire
so
me. And we won't take any
Sorry
bets.
about this. This is what happens when you have two politicians together. Right, Darren. How did you think that went for Keir? Because it did feel slightly like at times he was on the back foot. Rishi Sunak was definitely on the attack, particularly on things like small boats. It felt like he was a bit wrong-footed. What did you think?
Do you know what I think that reflected, actually, was which of the two candidates was the most prime ministerial? It was very clearly Keir Starmer. Rishi Sunak, I think, behaved quite badly, actually, during that debate. He didn't answer questions that was put to him and was constantly speaking over Keir and Michelle. I think what Keir Starmer showed was that not only is he the best candidate to be Prime Minister, but that the Conservative Party manifesto was entirely unfunded, and Rishi Sunak didn't answer that question.
A lot of Keir Starmer's criticisms were actually quite personal. He said that the Prime Minister's out of touch. I put this to David Davis as well, that he lives in a world millions of miles away. Do you think those are fair criticisms? Is that a bit below the belt?
No, I think it is fair, because actually Rishi Sunak is going around the country telling everyone they've never had it so good. And just like with my conversation with David Davis just now, we put their record to them. They crashed the economy. People at home know this because they paid the price for it with their mortgages, their shopping bills and their energy bills. And whether they're Tory MPs or the Tory Prime Minister, they say, oh, nothing to do with us. That is completely out of touch. The public's seen their behaviour and they've seen the consequences. And if they elect the Conservatives next week, they'll get 5 more years of chaos from the Conservatives.
And on the economy, which is your brief, you know, the IFS is saying that neither of you are being honest about the public finances.
They looked at our manifesto. Our manifesto is fully funded and fully costed in the Labour Party. The little grey pages at the back of the manifesto, you can go and look at all the maths. What the IFS were referring to were the spending plans in future years, because the Conservatives have not set out those spending plans. And we've been very honest that that's going to be tough because of the failure for the Tories to grow the economy effectively. And yes, it will be hard to begin with, but we have a plan for turning that around.
And your plan is growth?
Well, there's an initial injection of billions of pounds into frontline public services. All of that set out in the manifesto. Again, you can read it all at the back pages. But then in the long term, you have to get the economy back on track. You can't have the chaos that David Davis was just talking about. You've got to get back to stability in the economy in order to stimulate growth. You'll only get that if you vote for Labour next Thursday.
But as you say, that takes time. And the IFS is saying you need money right now to pay for, massive compensation schemes, as you say yourself. You want to rebuild the economy.
Yeah, and that's why I say it's going to be hard to start with. I make no secret of that, but we inherit the world as we find it, not as we would like it to be. And that's why our plan is about getting a grip on the economy, getting a grip on public finances, and getting back to stability with Labour. But that will only happen if people vote for it next Thursday.
It reminds me, I said this earlier, this Harold Wilson quote, I'm an optimist, but an optimist that carries a raincoat. Labour don't have a raincoat.
I'm trying to understand what the metaphor means in terms of
he
our
says
politics.
he's an optimist,
Yeah.
but he needs a safety strategy. You're saying we're hoping for growth, but you don't seem to have a plan if you don't get it.
Oh, well, we're very confident about our plan for growth, and of course there is that initial injection of billions of pounds into frontline public services, which do need them. I mean, we recognise that, but you've got to get growth back into the economy. You can't just have more and more years of what we've had in the past, dipping in and out of recession, public finances going all over the place, inflation through the roof. We have to end 14 years of chaos from the Conservatives, bring stability with Labour by voting for Labour next Thursday.
Okay, Darren Jones, with your final pitch, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
We will speak to you, I'm sure, again before this is all over. Right, we're going to speak to Sam Coates again. Tell us a bit more about that snap polling and what you make of it.
So I've already had a conversation with somebody very close to Rishi Sunak. Two things are very clear. First of all, they think today went well for him. And secondly, I said, well, if that's the case, then you must be pretty disappointed with the 50-50 that you can see on your screen. And quite bluntly, Ali, they said, yeah, we are. And then they said, we hope the most important thing that people take away from tonight are some phrases that stick in people's minds. Remember, Rishi Sunak, the underdog, he called this election, it's his timing, it's all of his strategy. He is nevertheless at this point 20 points behind the polls still. The polls haven't narrowed. He's the underdog. He needed to change things in a dramatic fashion. He had a strategy. He executed it the best he could. The question is it the right one?
And are people listening?
What Rishi Sunak did tonight was to go through a series of things, from women's rights to welfare and how you get people out of off benefits and into work, to how you smash the criminal gangs, all of these things, and very clearly he wanted to say, I've got a plan and my opponent doesn't. And at points, I have to say, Ali, there were words from Keir Starmer, but not the level of precision that perhaps some might have looked for in that. And I think that was the whole point of what Rishi Sunak wanted. And if he wanted to draw the division, the contrast in this election, he did it. The question is, do the public care? Because at this point, one of the dynamics it looks like for this election is actually just they want, the polls would suggest they want Rishi Sunak and the Conservative Party out. That's the clear message that we're hearing. And in that case, it doesn't matter that, maybe the Tories have got a clearer plan on women's rights. It's too late for that. I think you saw the outline of the whole election campaign that Rishi Sunak would have wanted to run there, piling in on his opponent, making it clear that he hasn't got a fully formed plan. That's his allegation. Instead, for Keir Starmer's part, you could see him wanting to fall back on his track record as the head prosecutor and on attacks on the Tories and reminding people of 14 years of Tory rule. In a sense, they were having two different conversations. Keir Starmer talking about the past and his record and the Tories. Rishi Sunak talking about the choice. The poll, 50-50, evenly split. It's not going to transform this race if the public are thinking like that with the Tories so far behind. A plan, but was it the right one?
There you go, in that poll, 50% Sunak, 50% Starmer. Oh, no, we don't have time for another question. Thank you so much, Sam Coates. Well, there you have it. It seems like there quite simply is no winner from tonight's debate. Rishi Sunak and Keir Starmer have just over a week to convince voters that they are the right person to lead the country. Right now, it's anyone's guess. I think most people here think it will probably be a Labour victory. We will obviously bring you plenty more on this at the news at 10. But it is 5 weeks ago today since Rishi Sunak stood in the rain and announced a general election, and this evening a last roll of the dice, neck and neck in this final head-to-head debate.